Hi,
Hi,
everybody.
Miriam.
Thank you for joining us tonight. I want to welcome Ashish. She's going to tell us all about Morocco and olives.
Yeah, well, thanks so much, Aaron.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Good evening, everybody. Full disclosure, I actually am on my way to Morocco on Thursday, my 23rd visit to Morocco, as you may have heard Wendy and I talking about earlier. Aaron and I were actually joking about that when we had our pre-call a few days ago, or yesterday, actually. When you start going through, does the journey become old at any point? No, it's definitely not the pits. No pun intended. Let's start out with this picture of olives. And every time we do a presentation like this or just do an event with photographs, we like to first of all just say that it is a conversation. There are no such thing as manners. As long as you're not cussing me out, everything else is fine. So if you want to basically use the chat, so if everybody find the chat box, put a Y in the chat box. That way I know that you know where it is. It's right next to the any key. Put the chat box in, just put a Y there, and that way I know that you see where it is. Perfect. Thank you.
Right there.
Yeah, perfect. That way, at least I know you guys know where it is. So, at any point, if I say something that makes you laugh, that makes you cry, hopefully not, or something makes you scratch your head, just go, that doesn't make sense. Or you have a question about something, or I have something in my teeth, just say something, and we'll jump in from there. So, let's start out with olives. Why am I showing olives? Well, I actually don't like olives. I don't like eating olives, except in Morocco. And it's because of the fact that, these olives, especially the green
Can you
ones,
see?
they are grown
over there.
No, it's fine.
They're grown all over the mangroves in the Eastern Atlas Mountains, the different parts. And the olive oil they make there, the virgin olive oil, you get to see how they do it. It really is amazing. And I put olives here because olives are actually a staple of almost everything you're going to eat. I don't care if you're eating Berber bread, if you're eating tagine, if you're eating any other couscous or whatnot, it's there. Now it's ironic. It's ironic that I wasn't a big fan of olives because I actually grew up around this type of food. My mother was born in Sudan. I was born in Kenya. And as I mentioned, I've been to Morocco a bunch of times. What's really great is in the old Medina in Marrakech, there's a couple of Lebanese restaurants. And these Lebanese restaurants that I'll go to, I'll actually go there and I'll start asking, do you have fool and falafel? Or I'll say kefalak. And there's a phrase that basically in Arabic that they don't say in Morocco, but they say in Sudan and Lebanon called aslu shinu. Aslu shinu means what the bleep. And it's an inside joke that if I say that, and if the person at the counter understands what I'm saying, I'm about to have a really good meal. So that's actually where this comes in. So with Morocco, it's not quite the same thing, but when you start going in, I'm going to show you guys that if you look at the olives, and you ask the restaurateur wherever you're going, how is your olive oil made? And if they pull out a plastic bottle, leave. But if they show you in their flask and how it looks like a science experiment, you're about to have a really great meal, and that's key. Let's start with how the olive oil is actually made. And I actually saw this. This is the picture I took up in the High Atlas Mountains. I stopped at a Berber house and was hiking through. This is in 2019. I was hiking through the High Atlas Mountains, and I walked into these houses, and it was amazing. And there is this contraption that looks like a 1980s satellite dish. And I go, what exactly is this? Of course, my first question is, do you get HBO or do you get ESPN on that? And then we come to find out, no, that's not what it's for. It's actually used to make olive oil. Well, do tell. Well, here's another picture of it. So I want you to look at this picture and think for a second. If you are having a bad day, I promise you it could be worse. You could be that donkey. You have to walk in a circle all day. That's it. Just walk in a circle. So just think about that. So if you just wake up one morning and say, I spilled the coffee on my work clothes. I ran out of gas. My car broke down. I had a bad day at work, and I got a speeding ticket on the way home. Just keep this picture and say it could be worse. I could be a donkey walking in a circle, squishing olives. There's that. So here's what happens. Those olives you see on the left-hand side, they're pulled right from the grove. So it looks like an inside-out umbrella that then shakes the tree, and then all these olives fall into this upside-down umbrella and then come down. These olives are then put into that round stone, and then this donkey walks in a circle. And as this donkey is walking in a circle, the other side of it is that wheel that is moving. And as it's moving, it works. It's really quite ingenious, okay? The donkey walking in a circle moves the stone cylinder in a clockwise circle. While it's doing that, the other side of the gear is actually moving that big wooden wheel or stone wheel in a circular counterclockwise motion. So the olives are being crushed as they're going through. And at the very bottom, right around here, let's see if I can show you, right down here, the olive oil comes out from there. And they have little trays there, plates there. And I've actually eaten from that olive oil. It is very bitter when it first comes out because it is obviously extreme virgin olive oil. So it comes straight out, but it is absolutely amazing. You want proof? Here's a picture of the olives taken at a local market inside of the Marrakech Medina. And I mean, literally, it's like walking into a Starbucks. Do you want venti? Do you want small? Do you want grande? Do you want almond milk? Do you want soy milk? Do you want whole milk? Do you want red milk? Do you want black milk? Do you want blue milk? Here we go. Would you like that al fresco olives? Do you want al dente olives? Do you want grande olives, venti olives with the cappuccino olives? I mean, it's the same thing, right? You get the idea. It's a Starbucks of olives. So that's the whole thing. Is there's so much there, but back up a bit more, and you'll see that it's every dish you see here. And this is one of those stores. Actually, this is in the Medina and Fez. Every single dish you see here has olive oil in the ingredients. Every single one, even the sweet dishes, have olive oil in their thing. Now, I want to show you something real quick. This up here is a form of Berber bread, okay? It's a type of Berber bread. You have all sorts of different dates and everything here. But you see this one right here, the green one? Okay, little secret. This green one right here is a pistachio paste or a pistachio filling with a date on the inside. If you go to Morocco and you want to have the best tasting date you've ever had in your entire life, go green. That one right there. Pistachio with the date on the inside. It is absolutely incredible. Just saying. Now, let's talk about hammam. How many of you have been to a hammam? Or have had a hammam? Wendy, you're cheating. How many of you have actually, put a Y in there or just say, yes, I've had one. Okay, anybody who tells you I've been to a hammam, it was wonderful, is lying to you. That means they weren't at a hammam. They're lying to you. So yeah, Eileen, very good. Yeah, so that's exactly it. Like when you get done with it, it is amazing. But when you are actually there, it is literally they're squeezing every single joint. By the way, it is very intimate. You cannot be bashful in hammam, but it is very intimate. I mean, there's deep tissue massage, and then there's crush your bones. But when you come out of the hammam, and it's like basically a hot Turkish. It is a hot Turkish steam bath. You come out of this, your fossils are exfoliated. Your skin foliation, it's exfoliated. Your bones feel just really, really refreshed. There's so much that you could do. And what's really, really cool about this experience is that it's not something you really do have to do every time, but you have to do it once because they use all sort of the herbs and ingredients. Yeah, Lee, you're exactly right. Not exfoliation. It is fossil. It is fossil. That's exactly right. So here, thank you. But they use all local rosemary and thyme and local ingredients and everything else to go in to actually make this hammam. It's such a cool experience because it's like nothing else you've ever had. Now, you may not want to go back a second time, but you got to do it at least once. And once you come out, it actually is quite amazing. I have to tell you. And what's that phrase, right? No pain, no gain. It applies here too. Just want to make sure you know that. So back to olives. Let's go back to olives for a second. Anybody here have tagine? Again, I know, Wendy, you've had tagine. Anybody else have tagine? So something really cool about this setup. Eileen, have you had tagine before? Oh, Eileen just came back in. Arlene just came back in. So she'll tell us when she's there. So there's something really key here with tagine. So of course the olives are there, but I'm a vegetarian, and so the way they make tagine, it's of course with the base, olive oil, of course, the couscous is in there, sometimes separately, but sometimes in here as well. The vegetables are there, the spices there, but the way the top is designed, so what you'll notice when you look at the top, so right up here, the top of a tagine plate, it's not an opening. It's actually completely closed. There's no actual opening for steam to get out. It's not a pressure cooker, but it is. Think of a tandoori clay oven for us Indians. This is a very similar concept for Moroccans, for Berbers, where literally what it's doing is you're creating a vacuum. So the flavors come up, they actually capture with the other flavors, with the steam, and then as they condense and as the water comes back into the plate, as it condenses, the flavors go with the water. I've seen it happen, and it really, what you put in and what you taste are two completely different things. It's quite amazing. But honestly, a Moroccan cuisine is not complete without bread, without Berber bread. And I know they have all different types of bread, but the Berber bread, which is the left-hand side right here, this is probably by far my favorite bread in the entire world, for two reasons. One, because of how it's made, and two, because of how it tastes. So first of all, if you look at the dips over here on the left, on the right-hand side, you'll see a bunch of dips. These are not sweet dips. Some of them are chili paste, some of them are a fruit paste, but they are all different based. In fact, that brown paste that looks like peanut butter, what would you say if I told you that was an olive base? That was not a peanut butter base. That was an olive base. Now, the bread has something really, really unique to it. So I watched the Berbers actually make this bread, and it was quite amazing. And the picture on the left-hand side, Josefina, you're absolutely right. They are so yummy. The picture on the left-hand side is a picture I took, and there's a story behind this. Now, the picture on the right-hand side is what you would see if you're going into a resort or if you're at a hotel. They will show you how to make the bread, and they use that stick there to bring the bread out and whatnot. But in truth, real Berber bread is not made by men. It's not even made by the mother. It is made by the daughter of the house. And here's why. Traditional Berber culture, women, and this is changing, but in traditional times, women don't go past the 5th grade education. Then they stay home and they begin cooking. I watched this woman who was, I think, 17 years old. Her and her older sister and her family was there. Her older sister actually was opening up her house for cooking classes like this to be able to actually, and the agreement she had with her father was, if you let me work and you let me do this, I will do this for you to bring income to the house on one condition: you let my sister keep learning, keep going to school. So that was a condition. So I watched this 17-year-old on that left-hand side, there, that fire pit. She put on this sleeve, right? Put on this sleeve that was on her arm, stuck her hand elbow deep into that fire. I watched it happen. She dipped it in water and then stuck her hand elbow deep in that fire and plastered the dough to make this bread onto the side of that stone wall that's on the inside. And that's what gave it the bread, the smoky flavor. And I just kept watching it and watching it. I'm just, two things enter my mind. One, how does this woman have any hair left anywhere on her arm, first of all? And she didn't scream, yell, nothing. She didn't feel anything. So I don't even imagine the calluses she must have. But yet her arm was perfect. Now, you look on the inside, and I watch this bread. She has, the perfect amount of water has been put on here. She's put some olive oil on here as well. It is now taking the shape of the inside of the stove, that round shape. It's taking this shape, right? And it's getting puffier and puffier and puffier and puffier. No yeast in this dough, which was amazing. And then she reaches in with her hand and peels this thing like a Band-Aid off of this stone, holds it in her bare hand, brings it out. And of course, I see this, and I see the guy on the right hand side with the pizza shover, and going, "Come on, that's not real. That can't be really the way to do it." So, real Berber bread isn't made by men. Real Berber bread is made by women, and it's made the right way. And I gotta tell you, that bread was probably, to this date, the best tasting bread. I'm not a big bread guy, but it is the best tasting bread I have ever had my entire life. Now, the top of this stove, you see this black urn that's there. You could put water in there. In this case, they were actually heating up their drinking water because they were boiling their hot water for drinking on top of this stove. So that's what happened here. But you could put, but I saw her take this off, put the tagine on afterwards. The fire in here was cooking the tagine as well. I mean, there's a million different uses for it, which is great. Let's break out into the map a little bit. Now, if there's any teachers here, please forgive me, because I'm the first one to say that if you want to explore a destination, throw away the map. But I need to preface that, okay? You know, when we talk about Morocco, we talk about Marrakech, we talk about Fez, we talk about Rabat, Casablanca, we talk about the Sahara Desert, and maybe one or two other places. You know, maybe the Atlas Mountains, of course. What we want to show you is some of the places that are beyond that. So, for example, one of my most recent trips before this one I'm about to go on, I actually went out to Walidia. Walidia is actually where you can go surfing off the North African coast. A lot of people think that to go to the coastline, you got to go up to Tangiers, or you got to go to Agadir, or you got to go to Essaouira. But actually, Walidia is the hidden gem. Very few people know about it. It's 3 hours from Casablanca, 3 hours from Marrakech. It is absolutely amazing, this place. And to be able to actually go out here, to stay here for a few nights. And I got to tell you a funny story. I was here with my family, and there's a La Sultana hotel here, which is a Virtuoso hotel that's here, and sister of a Virtuoso hotel. And so we are by the poolside. So the way this hotel's set up, there's a little lagoon, there's a little sandy area, a little lagoon, and then there's another sandbar, and then the ocean. So it's a really hotbed for oysters, for clams. But what was amazing was this little pool in the front there, and my kids are playing in the pool, and I'm sitting on the chair watching them. They have this little hat that I just put on it. I looked like I had drank too much tequila, so I just put the hat on just to relax. And this woman next to me and the guy next to her starts talking, "Oh, where are you guys from?" And they were surprised because I was American. Turns out she was the director of the show Homeland, the Netflix series, because they film everything in Morocco. And apparently the whole crew just happened to drive out here to Walidia to crash and just celebrate the season completing. And they were out here because nobody could find them. So, of course, I wanted to be a smart aleck. So I said, "You're on Netflix? What's that?" And I said, "No, I'm just joking. I'm relax. I'm just kidding. I know what Netflix is. Don't worry." But then being able to go a bit further and say, well, okay, Morocco is about long drives. What if you go beyond that? Look at the Agafay Desert, which is the rock desert, right? Which is 2 hours from Marrakech. This is actually, if you don't want to go all the way out to the Sahara, this is another option for you for somebody who doesn't want to drive 7 hours. Or to get to the real Sahara, which is what I enjoy, is Zagora. You want to get to a place where there's no camps. There's maybe 1 or 2 hotels. It is not mainstream yet. This is the place, Zagora. It's a bit harder to get to, but I got to tell you, it is absolutely, this is the real desert. This is the real Sahara. Then there's this place. Now, this is Chefchaouen, and I have to tell you that in every country, there are experiences that speak to you, but then there are just towns that just leave you floored. And there are several of them. It's the story behind of why they painted that way. So, for example, one of them is Halong Bay in Vietnam, because Halong Bay means Bay of Descending Dragons, and the story of how the ancient invaders, the dragons fell from the sky to kick out the invaders and to give the land back, to protect the land and give it back to the original owners, and the whole mythology that goes with the story that goes with it. Chefchaouen is in a very similar base. Anybody here? Anybody been up here? Anybody been up to Chefchaouen? Again, raise your hand. Wendy, seriously? I actually found one? All right, look at that. So, okay. Here's something really cool about Chefchaouen. The whole town is painted blue. And when I say the whole town, I mean the whole town. But it's not a style-wise. Like if you go to India, you go to Jodhpur, it's the blue city. Jaipur is the pink city. It's because of the royalty and because of the paint that goes back to Mughal times and to feudal times. That's not the case here. The city is painted blue to remind everybody about their morality. It is painted blue to remind you to look up at the sky. It is painted blue to remind you to be a good person. If that's the case, I said, we need a lot of blue paint here. Can we borrow 10,000 gallons to use in the States here? Maybe 20,000. I can think of a few places. I'm not calling anybody out, but Chicago, I'm looking at you. Detroit, I'm looking at you. South Compton, I'm looking at you. So there's a bunch of places. Miami, I'm looking at you. There's a bunch of places that are there. But just think about this. And this is so important because oftentimes we get caught up in, especially around this time of year, caught up in what Islam really is and what the actual religion really is, and Islam versus Muslim, and the actual religion versus the fanatics, and the actual history versus the Quran, the actual Quran versus what the perceived definition is. This city answers so many of those questions. I tell anybody who starts debating the meaning of Islam. Now, I am a Hindu, but my college roommate was from Pakistan. So we're a walking United Nations. I used to joke at my college roommate all the time and say, we're probably not supposed to talk to each other. So I should probably punch you at some point. And we joke about that because of the fact that we still to this day, we've been friends for 30 years and we're the best of friends. And when we start talking about the religion and about the mythology and about the cultural history of any country within the Arab world, whether it's Morocco, whether it's Egypt, this is the only country, Morocco is, that has this city of Chefchaouen. No other city will explain the ancient history of Islam and the ancient religion of Morocco more than this city. A city painted blue to remind you of your morality. Think about that. We need a whole bunch of this, like in Washington, D.C. We can paint like pretty much the whole town this color. Just saying. Now, if we switch a little bit more, now we get up to the coast of Tamuda Bay, near Tangiers. Now, I had this conversation with somebody, and we were talking about Tangiers. Like, oh, no, Tangiers is the French Riviera. We don't want to go up there. I'm like, no, I'm not talking about Tangiers. I'm talking about Tamuda Bay. Tamuda Bay is just off to the west of Tangiers. It's up near the north. What's Tamuda Bay? That's this place. That's what you're looking at here. And there is a gorgeous hotel called the Banyan Tree up in Tamuda Bay. And that is your view. Now, I want you to picture this for a second. That's not just any ocean you're staring at. That's the Straits of Gibraltar. I mean, I could pull this out of Homer's Odyssey. I could pull this out of any, Greek, Roman, ancient book that talks about passing the Straits of Gibraltar. And I can say, I'm sitting in actually a really cool pool chair across this negative edge pool, infinity pool, looking over the same Straits of Gibraltar. And I got to tell you, I actually am taking a couple of works from, the Odyssey by Homer, and because I'm a nerd, I'm going to take some excerpts of this just to take up here because I am staying here. And I want to actually just read because of the fact that this is the Straits of Gibraltar I'm staring at, just off to the west of it, but still the same body of water going, wow. I get to stare at this body of water, and I've read about this body of water for the last 30 years. And every time I've come up here, I've enjoyed seeing it, but I didn't get to geek out. So now I'm going to geek out. I'm going to go read this book while I'm sitting at this. So if you see me putting an Instagram shot of me actually reading a book here, those of you on this call will understand why I'm holding Homer's The Odyssey while I'm just sitting here. Now, the other part of this is the bullet train. So I was mentioning earlier on that back in 2018, the end of 2018, the Al Barouk is what this is called, was a brand new bullet train that was actually developed to go specifically from Tangiers down to Casablanca. Now it also goes to Fez and Mykonos, but those are not bullet train stations. Those are more local commuter stations. So it's an offshoot. So all the green stations you see there, like to Rabat, to Casablanca, those are there. But what the easiest thing to do is, from Tangiers to Casablanca. A 4-hour drive turned into a 90-minute train ride because of a bullet train. That's just, think about this. This is the only bullet train in all of Africa. Now, there's a brand new high-speed train service in Kenya. It's not a bullet train. This is the only pure bullet train. If you ever had questions about whether or not Morocco believes in technology and development, this is your answer. The only one in all of Africa. Think about that. Now, I have to show this picture. I'm going to ask you guys a question. Have you guys ever been to a place that you love but would never want to go back to again because it was traumatizing or disgusting or just, that was really cool. That was amazing. Let's go back again. Yeah, no. Yeah, Fran, you're exactly right. Skydiving is one of those. I mean, I've done it again, but some people do skydiving and go, I did it, but I'm not going back again. Not without mint sprays to hide the smile. Nice one, Wendy. That's a good one. Well, okay, so what you're looking at here is the tanneries of Fez. This is the leather tanneries. This is where if you are purchasing a piece of leather, Aaron, your picture, your face says it all. That's exactly what everybody else feels. Your face says it all. It's like, that's the what? The what that now? So this is the leather tanneries. This is where your leather is dyed. This is how brown leather becomes yellow, and black leather becomes red. But you see these tanneries. It smells to holy, what. It is not pleasant, but it's something you have to see because this is in Fez, in the old Medina. And Fez is the largest Medina in Morocco. And I'll show you what I mean by an example. But the fact that you actually get to see this, it only happens in Fez. And the tanneries that are here, it's a place that you have to see once. You won't want to go back to again, I can assure you. But the fact that you get to see it once, it actually is something that's quite amazing because much like Dobigat in Mumbai, where the local the poor that are there wash their clothes on the rocks in Dobigat near Mumbai from the shanty town there. This is similar. This is where the locals come and actually tan their leather. This is whether it's leather from goats, whether it's leather from cow, whatever the case. This is where they make it. And this is an old-fashioned method. It dates back to, centuries, to Berber times. And Berbers, by the way, Berbers date back to 10,000 BCE. Berbers in some cases are older than the Mayans and the Aztecs in some cases. And the fact that it dates back, and some of these processes actually date back to that far, which is really quite amazing. But I want to show you something about Fez. I want to show you the fact that when you talk about the Medina and the size of it, this picture shows it's big, but I want to show it to you in comparison. The picture on the right-hand side is the old city in Fez. Left-hand side is Manhattan. The old city in Fez is bigger than Manhattan Island. Just think about that for a second. Now, if you ever want to walk through the old town in Fez on your own, I'll see you in 5 days. You won't get across it in one day. I hope you have a lot of water with you. And if you end up at the tanneries, well, drink more water. I'll see you afterwards. Now let's come to Marrakech. Marrakech is a place everybody knows, right? Marrakech is, with the souks, and you've got this is where you see those really well-known pictures of the spices in those cone shapes, and then the Aya Saint Laurent Museum, and you've got the inner workings of Marrakech. But I bet you haven't seen this. This is my favorite way of seeing Marrakech. Sitting in those sidecars of World War II era motorcycles. These are Russian Urals and replicas of BMW M71s. You can do this only in Marrakech, but in other places in Africa, like in Cape Town. You can do it in other places in the world, but not that many. But these motorcycles, it's a French expat that moved here. And so her and her husband started this. And it's really quite amazing. So I took my kids out on this, my wife out on this, and we went exploring. And we ended up actually running across the upside down house. This is a whole area of artwork that's inside of Marrakech. We also came across a studio or a little area that actually was where Jimi Hendrix performed in Marrakech. Now, of course, you might be thinking right now, well, I know these places are really good. You saw me Banyan Tree and whatnot, but what about the hotels in places like Marrakech? Well, okay. If there's ever a place where Four Seasons can feel like a Motel 6, it's in Marrakech. This is the Royal Mansour. This is actually the king's private residence that actually turns into, it's a private residence. Now, if you've ever been to Disney World, there's a whole city underneath where people walk, all the staff walks underneath, and they just magically show up on certain pathways. The Royal Mansour is sort of like that. There's a certain walkway that goes to the back of your riad, down this back way to wherever. So it's like you come out, you wake up in the morning, come downstairs, and there's somebody magically in the kitchen making cappuccino for you because they remembered you ordered it 2 days ago and they know exactly how you're going to make it. Or somebody who just remembered that you like a certain type of music, and you wake up in the morning and it's playing downstairs because they remembered. It's amazing in those places, even more amazing in a place like Morocco because it's not always the norm. The joke we have in Morocco is that when you get off the beaten track, you need 6 people for the job of 2. But when it comes to places like Marrakech, when you get to places like Royal Mansour or other places like that, it becomes a bit different. Then you get out into the Atlas Mountains, right? You get out into the high Atlas Mountains, start getting into the Berber houses. Now you see over here, you see these roadways here. If you actually look carefully from Morocco, from Marrakech, you will see them as terraces. Now, in places like Peru, they use terraces to define how they grow vegetation and whatnot. In the Atlas Mountains, the Berbers actually use to define land territories. It's amazing how they have the terraces. It's like, okay, this is my land parcel, this is your land parcel. And it's amazing how similar they look to what you would see in old India, in the southern part of India, what you'll see in Peru, and what you see here. It's quite touching. Now, one of the things that's really cool about Morocco is the fact that Richard Branson actually has a presence here. So Richard Branson actually opened this hotel in the high Atlas Mountains called Casbahs. Now, I don't know if you guys saw the news 2 days ago, but Richard Branson has announced that he is investing $100 million into opening new hotels in the southern part of Morocco. So southern part near the Mauritania border. So part of this trip that I'm going to be touching on those areas just because I can't wait for that to happen. Just because there's nothing there right now. And so that's a huge plus. But this particular place, Casbahs, is one that really spoke to me just because of how special it is. Now, while you're at Tamadot, you go out, as I mentioned, to the Rock Desert or to any of the other deserts, and going out by ATV is really, really key. Now, you got to be careful when you go. I actually went, one of my trips was in the summer months, and I actually got off that ATV on the left-hand side you see there, and I almost made really good friends with the scorpion on the ground. Yellow scorpion, tip up in the air, and I looked up. He was giving me the hey, what's up? What are you about to do? So I looked down, and of course you hear everybody screaming malesh, 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 which in Moroccan Arabic, malesh is like I'm sorry, or be careful, be careful, be careful, be careful. It's okay, it's okay. They thought I had stepped on the scorpion, so they started screaming malesh. And they see it's still there, and it's yellow and it's clear, and which basically means it would have hurt. So you will notice that when we talk about the desert, and when Aaron and us are putting together trips for you, or anybody else are putting together trips for you, we will tell you what months not to be here. Much like we'll tell you the polar bears will take over Canada, we'll say these months the scorpions are going to rule over the desert. Let's not go there. Let's go somewhere else. Now, anybody here like driving? Anybody here enjoy switchbacks and driving in chicanes and it's Formula One and whatnot? I'm a car junkie, so if anybody else is, by all means, please don't leave me alone. Tell me you are as well. Make me feel better. But these switchbacks, these chicanes you see here, that's actually how you get to a lot of places, especially within the Atlas Mountains. So there's not as many flights, so you do drive back. So it's very important to know that we pace how you drive, because your drives aren't always going to be straight. They are definitely worth it in terms of where you reach, but they're not always going to be a straight shot to get there. Now, the other place that I'm absolutely in love with, I've always been in love with in Morocco, is a place called Dar Halam. Dar Halam is in Skoura. Skoura is in the Eastern Atlas Mountains. It is about 1 hour from Ouarzazate. This is a 450-year-old riad Kasbah turned into a hotel. It is a foodie's dream come true. So everything you see, including olives, is grown here. The door you're looking at is the original door. Now, as you are here, every single meal is in a different location. I remember one meal, there's a little stream that heads out. So just to the right of this pool, there's a little stream. My right, so your left. There's a little stream at the end of this pool that goes out. It's a big stream, very long, narrow stream. And so one of the meals we had was a table that they straddle the stream, and you sit on the ground. So the table's about this high. You sit on the ground, your feet are dangling in this cold water that's just so refreshing on your toes, and the food's being delivered to you on the table as you're eating. Everything is grown organically there. So if you are a foodie, this is an absolute must. This is your Taj Mahal. This is where you have to go. Now, I can't talk about Morocco and the desert and not talk about camels. I mean, I have to talk about camels. Anybody who tells has never ridden a camel before. Because anybody who's actually ridden a camel will tell you in 10 minutes, yeah, it wasn't actually that comfortable. After about 10 minutes, said, yeah, it was fun. No, we were done. We got off. We were done. But that's the beauty of this. That's what this is all about. Now, I showed you what Berber tents look like. If you want to have an authentic Berber experience, this is what the real tents look like. So if you really want to have a Berber tent, have at it. This is the place to go. This is where you want to stay. It's there. I'm kidding. Don't worry. I'm kidding. There's better places to stay, but this is how they live. This is why when you talk, when you look at this picture, when you think back now to the tanneries, to how they make their bread, to how the Berbers actually live, it all makes sense because of how this tent looks and because of what this is about. It all makes sense. You look at even how they cook their food, their tagine in those pots, in those plates. Look at the top of this tent. It's about aeration. Same thing. How they live is how they cook. How they cook is how they eat. How they eat is how they work. How they work is how they live. Full cycle. This is the tent you'd be staying in. Very different, obviously. Aaron's like, oh, thank God. All right. So this is the type of tent you'd be staying in. This is Merzouga luxury camp. So this is an example of a tent out in the Sahara. Now, me personally, I actually like the Rock Desert or even Zagora better. I don't mind Merzouga. I do like it. I think the camps are beautiful. I just think it's a bit touristy. So for the real experience, I do like Zagora better, and I do like the Agafay area much better in terms of. Now we're coming into Taroudant, which is, I'm heading on this trip. It's actually called the New Marrakech. You start seeing here, the build out is not here the same way, but you start seeing elements of what Taroudant looks like. It's very similar in design, very similar style. It's untouched. There's only 2 hotels here, Dar Al Hussan and Claudia Bravo. That's it. There's only 2 hotels in this whole area, in this whole town. It's 3 hours outside of Marrakech. And this is, like I said, this is the new Marrakech. Now, I mentioned the Berbers earlier, and I mentioned to you that they date back to 10,000 BCE. Did you know that the Berbers actually can be found in Egypt too? Not in Cairo, not in Luxor, but in a place called the Siwa Oasis, the Western Desert, which is near the Libya border. There are 30,000 Berbers there as well, and that is the best existing proof that at one point the Berbers actually reached all across North Africa, through Tunisia, all the way to Egypt, all the way across, through Libya and all the way across. So this, a lot of people think the Berber culture is just limited to Morocco. No, it's just where it can be found. But if we were to trace it back, the roots of the Berber culture predate the Mayans, predate the Incas, predate the Aztecs, predate the pre-Columbians. And that's the part of it. That's really, really key, is the fact that you get into this heritage and you see that this heritage at one point controlled most of North Africa. And elements of it are in Egypt. We just happen to see it in Morocco right now. Now, I can't end anything with Morocco without talking about the new Hollywood, or Zazat, and talking about how the films that were made here. So Gladiator was filmed here. The Mummy films were filmed here. Homeland was filmed here. And so was Game of Thrones. That was all filmed here as well. Wait, I mentioned Game of Thrones. I just saw a whole bunch of faces look up immediately. So I think you have a lot of Game of Thrones fans that are on this as well. So I have to tell you, I have to ask all of you, that coffee cup, what do you guys think? Was that a pure accident, or was that really planted in the scene? Yeah, you guys got to tell me. I mean, conspiracy theories are abound right now. So I just have to know. And you can unmute yourself, or you can just put in the chat box. Tell me if that coffee cup at the end, in that last season, that one scene, was it planted there, or was it a real mistake? I don't know. Inquiring minds want to know. So while you're thinking about that and putting that in, just know that Game of Thrones is also filmed here. I agree, Lee. It's a plan. I think that too. I think that we were being taken for a ride, but it was done really, really well. And I was actually happy because it didn't say Starbucks on it. So we're good. Mistake that they are fully leveraging. Yes, Wendy, you might be actually onto something. I think you might be onto something. Either way, they're doing this the right way. Whether it's a mistake or planted, they are definitely leveraging it. That's basically it. Yes, the water bottle in Downton Abbey. Okay, so my wife is a big fan of Downton Abbey, which is exactly why I know what that is. Otherwise, I would have no clue what you're talking about. But my wife knows Downton Abbey, and she forced me to watch it, which is why I actually saw that water bottle scene. So I will confess to that right now. So with Game of Thrones, I will open it back up to Aaron and Lee and see if anybody has any questions, or if you just want to poke fun at me. Go ahead.
Wow, that was amazing.
Awesome.
We watched Game of Thrones and Downton Abbey, so
there you go. Yeah, I didn't quite get into Downton Abbey, but I got to tell you, I tried. I tried to try, and then I tried, and I got about a quarter of the way, and I said, no, it's not for me. But I hear it was very, very good, and I did see the water bottle scene. I do remember that.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, sorry, go ahead.
Does anybody have any questions for Ashish?
And no, I can't bring couscous back for anybody. And no, I can't
Oh,
bring argan oil back for anybody before anybody asks. I already have enough trouble going through customs. You think I want to bring that stuff back as well? I need all the help I can get. So speechless, absolutely speechless. I am leaving on Thursday. The first thing I'm actually doing when I land, I'm actually driving from Casablanca to Marrakech and then heading out from there to Taroudan. So the first thing I'm doing is actually heading out to on that sidecar, and I'm actually going to my Lebanese restaurant. It's in the Jewish quarter of the Medina in Marrakech. So I am going there first to get just the aslu shinu, to get my falafel, to get my fool, to get baba. Not baba ganoush, I'm not a big fan of, but everything else I'm okay. That's there. Best time to go. Really, you're looking at. Oh, sorry, Letitia. Yes, they do. They really do in different places. In Fez, especially, and around Fez, they do have good good deals on leather, but they're raw leather. It's not always finished. It's not jackets and whatnot. It's not handbags. It's actually different makes. So sometimes it's even just the raw leather material you can get, and then you come back here and manufacture something with it. So you can give it to a tailor to make something out of it, or you can get purses and whatnot out of it as well. Look, your best time to go. There are several times, but really, October till about May is the season to go there with. You got to avoid April. April 2nd to May 2nd is Ramadan. So as long as you avoid that, especially the end of Ramadan around Eid, there is actually that's where because Moroccans believe in eating a goat's brain, that they're eating the brain of Abraham's goat. So around Eid and certain times of the year around Eid, you will see that they've actually boiled goat heads in the old cities around Morocco. So maybe not around that time. So just if you see Ramadan and you see Eid, just make sure you're not there during that time. Every other time you're fine. You're good. Summertime gets very, very hot around July, August. June, you're okay. It's not that bad. I was there in June. It's not that bad either. I'm not a big fan of December. I know some people go in December. I'm not a big fan of December just because it's the festive season. Yes, the weather is good and everything else, but everybody wants to aim there. So there's that. Taboo items to bring back from Morocco. That's actually a really good question. When you were coming back, obviously, different types of spices. Make sure you know what you're getting. But there's certain types of sandalwood. So if you're getting any kind of wood, make sure you know it's sandalwood. Make sure it's not an endangered wood. So that's really about it. Other than that, when you get to certain places, they will sell not vodka or not even any kind of alcohol, but it's this fermented drink that actually has a snake inside of it. They do it in a lot of other countries. I wouldn't bring that back. But everything else, the food-wise, whatnot, by all means, you're fine. The one that, like I said, the thing that people bring back the most, I bring back a lot of usually is argan oil. Argan oil actually, I grew up with this as well. It actually cools your scalp. If you put it into your hair, the certain types of argan oil, it's like coconut oil. You put it into your hair, let's say once every few weeks and whatnot, and you just leave it in there for a little bit. It actually cools your scalp off completely. So it's there. The other thing that's also here that's really good, I recommend, you get it in Egypt, get it in other countries, you can get it in certain places in Morocco, but you have to look for it, is what's called karkade. Karkade is the Arabic word for hibiscus leaves. You get these hibiscus leaves that you dry out and you make tea with them. So you take the leaves, the dried leaves, put them in hot boiling water. The water will turn blood red. Put some sugar in there. It becomes a hot tea. It's great if you have a cold. On a hot day, you actually use that same tea, put it on ice, put some sugar on it. It's a great cold drink. It is good for blood pressure, or so I've been told. But this is actually some tips. So those are things you can bring back. And no, you can't bring back any movie sets from any of the movies that are filmed in Orzazat before you even try. I asked. Anything else?
Eileen wondered what your top 3 riads are.
Oh, that's right. That's a great question. Okay, so top 3 riads. A lot of people will aim for Real Mansour as being their favorite. It's actually not my favorite. My favorite riad is, one of my 3 is called Riad El Fen in Marrakech. Riad El Fen was actually opened by Richard Branson's sister, Vanessa Branson. And if you want to see some of the best original Van Gogh pieces of art, it's in the Riad El Fen. If you guys have seen those pictures of all those pointed slippers that are all lined up in a row, 10 rows deep, that's the lobby of Riad El Fen. So that's one of them. The other one that I really, really enjoy is actually up in Fez, Riyadh Fez. I actually like that property a lot just because of the fact that it takes you back quite a bit. The third place, not really a riad, but a Kasbah, is Dar Halam. And of the three, I think Dar Halam is probably by far my absolute favorite. It's a place I could spend 2 weeks at just by itself. It's just something about the place. You know, you can go out on quad bikes or go out walking or just stay back, and there's enough to do. You never get bored, and it's just a pleasant place to be. So there's that. What else we got? Yeah, so for sure. Riyad Al Fen is RIAD and then LEL and then FENN. So Riyad Al Fen. Riyad Fez, RIAD and then FEZ, Riyad Fez. And then Dar Al Ham. So DAR and then AHLAM, Dar Al Ham. You got it. Lee, thank you. El Fen, Riyad Fez, and this. Yeah. Oh, you're welcome, Eileen. Thanks for asking that. And there's a bunch of other ones there as well, but there is actually, I tell you, there's a fourth one actually that I'm going back to this time. I have to see it again now. You know, the owner had a very sudden heart attack last year and passed away, so I want to see if it's still up to par. But if it does actually work, it's a place in Taroudan called Dar Al Hussan, Houssan, Dar Al Hussan. So I will go. I'm actually going to be staying there again this time because I actually want to see what it's like with his widow running it. I think she'll do a great job, but I want to see it for sure. When I saw it last time when he was there, it was just magical. All right.
I think that's it.
All right, look at that. So I'll see you all at the airport. Flight leaves at 7 p.m. Anybody wants to, I have a big suitcase. If you want to just get in the suitcase, we can put you as checked luggage. It's fine too, or carry on. That's no problem. We'll figure it out. No problem.
Will we each fit in one of your tiles?
Yeah, no problem. Actually, we can make that work. We can totally make that work. Tiles are expendable, so it actually works.
Okay.
Yes. Thanks, Wendy. Appreciate that.
Thank you so
Aaron,
much,
thank you.
Ashish.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you for setting this up, Aaron. It was really, really great. And Lee, as always, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, guys. It was awesome. I can go to bed very happy and hungry.
Good.
I used to work for Air Morocco in New York, and you're bringing all these memories, and I'm like,
Ah,
I want to be there.
is it the olives or is it anything else?
Everything.
Ah, there you go. Or the tea.
The tea when I used to get a cold.
Right, exactly right. Wait, before we go, I have to ask you: is it true on Riyad Morocco as well that if you pour the tea from a high altitude, that you actually are somebody's your friend, but if you pour it really close to the glass, it means you don't like the person?
That's what they used to tell me when I used to pour them in the office, because I was pouring it like this, and they're like, "No, Habibi, you have to do it like this," and I was like, "Okay." So
I told me the same thing. No, pour it from high. Why? It's an insult. And then I asked my mom, and she said, Sudan's the same thing. If you pour it up close, it means you're telling the other person you don't like them, you don't like their farm. I said, oh, okay.
Yes, I'm training my little girls to do it like this when we do our little tea party. So when we go overseas.
That's right. Don't forget the pinky. You got to hold the pinky up.
The pinky, yes.
The pinky's got to be up. So cool. I appreciate it. Thank you again for the time. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.